Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. After the previous videos I made about psychopaths being the root cause and psychopaths in organizations, how they're deep capture organizations and then shape entire domains, entire parts of an organization according to their own toxic philosophy. And after I also discussed how to recognize psychopaths and how to fight psychopaths, I moved on to discussing how to fight psychopathic systems. So I already made one video about psychopathic systems and what they can do to people and how one can, fight them. And I discussed that the key ingredients to fighting psychopathic systems is essentially identical to the key ingredients of fighting individual psychopaths. And one has to counteract every single one of their features. Because psychopaths don't really empathize with others, one has to empathize with absolutely everybody. Because psychopaths will try to truncate communication channels and isolate victims, one has to communicate with everybody openly, open the floodgates of information, and also communicate with everybody around oneself. Also with people who one wouldn't immediately think that they could help. So it's really about reaching out and using this sort of communication as a weapon. Then I also described how psychopaths use essentially props of power to come across as very imposing and then to command respect. And to counteract that, the best way to do that is to use utter disrespect and humor. So disrespect on itself, by itself, can just be very defensive and it can come across as very weak. But if you combine it with humor, it is a form of attack. And because normal people, remember, normal people are fighting against weaponized morons and essentially psychopaths. This is why humor is so fantastic, because normal people will immediately understand and, latch onto it and and derive enjoyment. Most of the weaponized morons will be frankly too stupid to understand the joke or understand why it's so funny. So you immediately leave them behind and you have immediately an insider communication channel with intelligent, normal people if you use the right sort of humor. And also, it is kryptonite to psychopaths because they take themselves so bloody seriously. So, and also it's fun. It is just fun to just mock things, but in a productive way. So what I will try to do in this video again is essentially go back to these principles and slowly build up more and more and talk about more and more psychopathic systems and hone in on the ultimate key problem. And what we are ultimately fighting right now in our societies everywhere around the world, not just in Switzerland, in Germany and Britain, but also in the US, in Japan, in South Africa, absolutely in China and Russia, everywhere around the world, we are essentially fighting deep capture by clinical psychopaths. And also we are fighting their absolutely idiotic enablers, who are essentially what I term the weaponized morons. And this pattern is identical across the world, and this is why we are all pretty much on the same page. So society is essentially they being the psychopaths and also their enablers and the intelligence agencies and all these other military installations, they want to split us essentially across lines of gender or race or nationality or language. And all of these splits are essentially counterproductive because we are all one. And the best way we can work is if we work together and help each other, regardless of race, religion, political opinions or gender or sex or whatever you want to call it. Everything, all of those things do not matter. Simply because, as I've showed you in this diagram, there's absolutely no representation for, sexual orientation or gender or sex or religion or political opinion. This has nothing to do with it. What we're really fighting is essentially clinical psychopaths going to the top and then starting to maiming and murder people and deprive other people of resources, which essentially are much more abundant than we realize, and they like to generate war. Now, to get out of that sort of setup, one has to step out of this.